best part of a Friday, just after 12 o'clock, and I meet up with Catherine from Katie's Garden. Hello, how are you?
I'm pretty good, thank you.
It's been a good gardening week, hasn't it? With the snow and ice, and well, you did warn us, and I've noticed all those people buying those bedding plants. They're moaning about it now, aren't they?
Yes, you try to tell people, they won't be told. No, but it's just what you want in gardening. When it's been nice and warm and everything's put on a load of fresh growth, some nice late frost to kill off all the fresh growth.
Well, they say you've got to wait till May, haven't you? They say, really. But we can start doing stuff. Hey, we've been doing this now for well over a year, and we call it gardening tips, which sounds rather naff, doesn't it? It's more than gardening tips. So
we're more interesting than that.
Yeah. So we threw it open to both of our to all the listeners, and we got loads of suggestions, didn't we, for what we should call it? Some rude and some very good. And you've narrowed it down to about 3 or 4, haven't you?
Yes, I think we've got our short list.
Okay. Are we going to say which one we can decide on now? Because I think we both know which one we like. What do you think we should call it? Well,
I have to say, losing the plots definitely seemed to fit in for me. I thought, no, I think we'll go a bit more. So, down to earth. That's us, isn't it?
That's nice. Down to earth on a Friday. I think that was Lisa who suggested that. So we'll have to get that branded and saved, and we'll work on it. The idea is we don't do big, heavy gardening programs, do we? We just gentle advice to help people through the weekend. If they've got questions, they can ask us, but otherwise we just carry on. So today, what are we talking about today?
We're going for a big heavy thing. We're going for proper gardening this week. So companion planting. So that is, I said, that's keen. That's proper old school, like your granddad used to gardening. So some people, what they mean by that, they just mean plants what look pretty together. And some people, it's all about maximising yields. It's taking a very scientific approach. I think that's taking things very seriously for us. So I'm pitching us somewhere in between today.
So in very plain English, companion planting is planting things that go together or can go together. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, so we're talking about plants that have got some sort of practical benefit for other plants in the garden. So it's particularly used for growing edibles, but it can be helpful in other aspects as well. So I am on record that personally, not a big fan of grow your own, because you go into it with all these high hopes. You think, I'm going to grow all this lovely, delicious, healthy food that I'm going to get to eat. And you know what else thinks it's delicious? Every single living thing that comes into your garden. So you like the feeling, you've been mugged, you've been robbed, going out in the morning, all your lovingly tended crops have been ravaged, then grow your own. But companion planting can help with that.
Yeah, you've got to be diligent, haven't you? If you're just going for one crop, you've got to be there all the time. The same with the lily beetles. You've got to be out there. They don't mind any boundaries. They'll come through. But if you do a bit of companion planting, then you can attract the bugs that eat the bugs. Is that what you mean?
Yes, that's one of the big benefits of it. That there are plants you can use, and they're going to deter some of the pests. So we've talked a lot about making your garden a nice, proper, balanced ecosystem. It's about trying to have a bit of everything. You put in your tasty crops, you're going to get all of these, I'm not going to call them bad bugs, that would be harsh, wouldn't it? Say, perhaps unwelcome bugs come and visit.
Oh, you're so kind.
Yes, let's not bring our prejudice into it as a gardener. So what you want to do is you then want to attract some other bugs, predatory ones. And so then you can just leave everything, leave all your plants and the bugs and the beasts, and they can all battle it out amongst themselves, and you just kick back and relax in the garden, get the deck chair out, have a nice drink.
This is where we need your knowledge, because we need to be told what sort of bugs and what sort of plants go together. So give us some examples. Talk us through a bit.
Well, if you're boiling it down for the really simple approach, it really comes down to planting lots of herbs amongst your vegetable plants, because a lot of them have got strong aromas, which on the whole, we like. We like the smell of the thyme and the sage and the mints and things. But particularly the garlic family, which includes the alliums, which are nice ornamental plants, as well as chives and the onions and things. They can be very good at deterring the aphids because they don't like the smell. It puts them off. And the other way the fragrances can work from the herbs is that they can mask the smell. So carrot fly, the root fly, that is a real one. They're like bloodhounds. They can sniff out your carrots from literally a mile away. But if you plant them up with things like lavenders, sages, mints, and said like the onion family as well, then that masks it and they can't sniff it out. But you need to make sure you plant that before the carrots. Don't wait, because they'll have sniffed you out from about 3 streets away and they'll be there.
It's incredible, isn't it? Because you say 3 streets, it probably is 3 streets. They know that distance. I mean, you could have it in your garden and then probably a mile away almost, and they'll get both gardens. They know.
Yeah, you're there pricking out your seedlings that you've been growing on your windowsill. And as soon as you do that, that gives off the scent. They're there, noses in the air, these little flies, sniffing, going quick down the road. So I said, if you've got all these plants around them, mostly the herbs, then that can help mask it. Another one, actually, the carrots are very good as buddies. They grow well with lots of things. Because you have the carrots, you can grow them with the leeks and the spring onions, but then actually the smell of the carrot puts off the leek moths and the onion flies. Clever. So they really work as a little team together.
How do you know all this? I mean, you've been in gardening for a few years now, but it's a lot of knowledge in your head to know all this, isn't it?
Well, don't even know the half of it. Don't ever think you know anything much about gardening.
So it's the combination of the plants, put them together, putting your herbs in, put your alliums, put the smelly stuff in there. What other things can we do?
Well, another one, and it feels sad to do it to them, but nasturtiums, because we've said this is like your granddad used to garden. So you're making a cottage garden, and it, you think they just did it because it was lovely, but actually it had lots of practical benefits. If you're growing your vegetables and your herbs, a lot of the annuals are really helpful as well. And nasturtiums, you grow them so that they get eaten and not everything that you're trying to grow. So if you put them with things like your beans and the brassicas, the caterpillars and the aphids, they'll just go and attack nasturtiums because they're tastier to them. So I said, it's a bit sad to do, but you're still just about in time to sow the seeds for this year. So if you're going to grow, you grow your own. Get them going as well. French marigolds is another one. They keep away the aphids. Again, it's I think it's the smell of it. So that's good for things like your tomatoes and things.
What about keeping wasps away from your wasps away from your barbecue? What can you do with those then?
You need a sticky child and they'll go for them instead. Get them to run off down the bottom of the garden covered in chocolate and jelly beans and things.
We don't recommend that one. But the marigolds, that's a really old one. I've heard of that one before, and you see a lot planting in between different crops. Put the marigolds in there and that takes all the ants that go straight towards them, don't they?
Yes, and that is one of the ones that I have to say I never get a strong enough handle on, because you have the French marigolds, which I think is for keeping away the aphids. You also have the African marigolds, which I think is the ones that are tagetes, and I think they're also good at keeping away the green fly, the black fly, the white fly. You also have your English marigolds, also known as pot marigolds, also known as calendula, and they are good for bringing in the bugs that you do want. So they're good for getting in, I said, the pollinators for things like the courgettes and things. And there another one, along with lavender, is very good, and yarrow, which is a Latin name, Achillea. It's a native plant, which is quite a boring white, but they come in lots of pretty colours as well. They've been developed, and they're really good for bringing in things like the hoverflies, the lacewings, and the ladybirds, which eat all of the aphids, the green flies, white flies, and things that cause you problems. And another classic cottage garden one, tansy, which I'm going to stumble here because it's called Tanacetum now. It's of the chrysanthemum family, but it used to be, I'm going to hope you're going to jump in, pyrethrum.
Pyrethrums, yes, I know those.
That's the one.
Yeah.
So that is used as a bit of an organic pest control, actually. I think you can buy it as a thing to spray on, but you can just grow the plants, have them in the ground, and that deters the ants and the aphids and caterpillars and all sorts. So it's a real wonder plant to have, and it's very pretty. It's like big daisy flowers. It's a real classic cottage plant. So I said it's making it all pretty. Rather than just growing lots of boring rows, make it a nice, pretty cottage garden. And
a lot of these, like you say, the Achillea, it's got a lot of movement, a lot of texture, and it goes with the wind, and it makes your garden feel good. And every now you get a waft of something coming across, don't you? Well, that's what the insects are getting as well. So you're bringing in the right ones, and it's not the nasty ones, because we don't have nasty ones. The ones the ones we want to deter, we're telling them
the problematic ones.
Buzz off somewhere else, and we'll keep on growing there. So it's great. So again, go to your nursery and ask. That's the best way, isn't it?
Yeah, and as I said, it's not the most basic, it's not low maintenance garden as such, but it is, if you're trying to go for a higher level, it's making your life easier, because you really don't want to be using chemicals and things. You're trying to make a nice ecosystem for everyone. So even if it's attracting things in, you're helping things like ladybirds, which you do want to help. So think of it that way.
The ladybirds good then, because there's loads of them at the moment. There's hundreds of them everywhere.
Yeah, I've been really pleased to see that. The last few years, I haven't seen very many around, so it's really nice to see them about. I said that get them on your roses, because they eat everything that's on your roses.
Oh, I didn't realise. I thought they were a bit of a pest as well, so I've learned something. So the ladybirds are good. It's nice to know. Right now, we're coming towards the end of the daffodil season, and we get this every year, and every gardener you ask has got a different answer to them. What do you do with the daffodils when they've finished?
Well, I think we need your confession. What do you do, Rob?
I leave them, and when they've gone funny, I just whip the heads off. My mum used to tie them up in knots, and I don't know, everybody used to do that.
Yes, and I really don't know why.
Yeah.
So gold star, I'm saying gold star to you. No. Yeah, your options, you either just completely leave them, you cut down everything, you pluck off the flower heads, or you do the weird stringing them up thing. So if we're going to go into the theory of it, everything sort of the thinking behind it is plants, when they finish flowering, they're generally going to form seed. In a daffodil, that's no help to you. You don't grow daffodils from seed. What you want is all the energy to go back into the bulb, because bulbs are magic. That is a whole full kit for a plant. Everything it needs is in there. So what you should be doing is you take off the flower heads to stop them wasting any energy making seeds.
Including that seed pod as well, then? Break the whole lot off? Because you do...
Yes, that's the real bit you want to get rid of.
That's the bit because I have done before. I wasn't sure before, and I have left those on, but not just the flower, the pod as well. So you've just got the green stalk sticking up.
Yes, so you want to get that off quite quick, and then you want to leave the leaves to die back down again, because that's putting all of that goodness, all the green that's in the leaves is feeding back into the bulb for next year's displays. So once it's gone yellowy and brown, then you can clear it away.
It does worry you, because it does go yellow and brown, and you see it on street verges, and you're thinking, why don't they come and mow this down? You've got to wait for it to die down, haven't you? It is a bit of a pest sometimes, a bit of a nuisance, and you want to be tidy, but be patient.
Yes, although I will say daffodils, they are tough old things. So to be honest, we've said all this.
Yeah.
I think they flower most years again anyway, regardless of what you do. But best practice is what you're doing. Take off the flower heads and leave the rest of it.
Okay, another cold weekend forecast, so much the same as last week. Protect everything. Don't go buying tender stuff just yet. Wait a little while.
We're nearly there. It's nearly May. 3 more weeks.
Okay.
So keep on enjoying spring.
That's the end of it for today. I've forgotten what we're calling it now. It's what do we call this program?
Down to Earth.
Down to Earth on Friday. We'll be I'm going to have to write this down. Catherine will be back with you next week, and if you want to find out more, pop along to Katie's garden. You know where they are at Newbourne, and just say, hey, we heard you on the radio. And and Catherine's book's still available as well. See you next week.